What's going on, you guys? It is your boy Matt Talks Films, and I'm back with another video, and I'm back with another review. And in this video right here, I am talking about the newest movie to hit cinemas this summer. I am talking about and reviewing the newest blockbuster to hit cinemas this summer. I am talking about and reviewing the newest dinosaur movie to hit cinemas this summer. In case you haven't guessed it by now, I am talking about and reviewing The End of Oak Street in this video. I'm excited to talk about this film. I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about this film, but a quick preamble. I was excited for this movie for a couple different reasons. The first reason being, it's a dinosaur movie that isn't a Jurassic Park movie or a Jurassic World movie. I hate the recent Jurassic World movies, and honestly, I don't think there's been a good Jurassic Park movie since the first one. So, I was excited for a new dinosaur movie. And we are getting one, and we got one this weekend. So I was like, you know what? I'm excited. A new dinosaur movie that isn't Jurassic Park movie, that isn't a Jurassic World movie. Let's fucking go. So that's the major reason why I was hyped for this movie. The second reason being, it's a new David Robert Mitchell film. In case you didn't know, David Robert Mitchell directed It Follows, which in my opinion is one of the best horror movies of the past 10 plus years. So not only are we getting a new dinosaur movie with this movie, but we're getting a new David Robert Mitchell movie with this movie. And also it stars Anne Hathaway and Ian McGregor, two of the most likable actors in the world of film. So, I was super excited for this movie, and quickly before I get into my full thoughts and opinions, I really enjoyed it, and I think it's the best dinosaur movie in a very, very, very long time, and I think it's my favorite popcorn blockbuster of the summer. Now, you just heard me say, I think it's the best dinosaur movie we have gotten in some time. But is that an indictment on how great this movie is, or is that an indictment on how bad that subgenre has been? Now, if you want to know the answer to that question, and if you want to know my full thoughts and opinions about The End of Oak Street, and if you even want to hear my thoughts and opinions about The Descent and Train to Busan, those two movies just got re-released in theaters this weekend. Leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe right here, right now at Matt Talks Films on YouTube. And follow me everywhere at Matt Talks Films, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter for more short-form content like this. Now, the first thing we got to cover in this video is The End of Oak Street. Now, let's get into it. Where do I even start? I have a lot to say, and this movie is a whole lot. It's funny, because the premise of this movie is insane. In case you haven't seen the movie, the premise of this movie is simple. And honestly, the trailers did this movie no justice at all. I thought the trailers for this movie were horrible. But while watching the trailers, I was like, this is really interesting, but also seems incredibly stupid. And also seems incredibly weird. In case you didn't know the plot of this movie, it follows the Platt family. And on a random, mysterious, cosmic event night, it rips their entire neighborhood up and transports it to the prehistoric era. So, now the Platt family has to survive and stick together to try and find themselves back home. That's what this movie is about. It's a weird movie. It consists of time travel, and it consists of fucking dinosaurs taking down a fucking neighborhood that just randomly shows up in their time period. What an interesting movie. So, for starters, what a return for David Robert Mitchell. Now, I love It Follows, like I've said, I don't know, 3 times since I started this video, but I haven't seen Under the Silver Lake, which I know is a pretty divisive movie that I've heard great things about, but this might be his most divisive, and I think The End of Oak Street is potentially the most divisive movie of the year so far, if not the summer. It's either you're going to love this movie, or you're gonna hate it. It's either you're gonna have a lot of fun with this movie and be fine with its imperfections and flaws, or you're gonna hate this movie because of how stupid it can be at times. I'm at the forefront of that. I think the fun outweighs the bad here quite severely. That's just how I feel. I think this movie succeeds mightily as a dinosaur survival movie, but it doesn't necessarily work as a family drama, which is what half of this movie is. Where do I begin? So we open up this movie very quickly with the clear dynamic of Denise Platt, aka Anne Hathaway, and Ian McGregor, Greg Platt. They are struggling. They're heading for divorce. but they're sticking together for their kids' sake. They're at this community party. Anne Hathaway is secretly writing a book. Ian McGregor is doing side jobs as a pizza delivery man, while the two kids try to ignore what's really going on in their household with their mom and dad. We get to know that Denise Platt is writing this book and how important it is, but she's keeping it a secret from her husband and her family, and we get the importance of that. We get this dynamic between the Platts and their neighbor, Mel Jacobs, who has a problem with their dog, Starbuck. We get all the dynamics that we need to get in this movie with the Platt family and with the neighbors that we brought up throughout the course of it. We even get snippets of a girl that Brian seems to really be fond of. We get the instance that we get his beef with a couple other kids in this neighborhood because Brian accidentally broke one of their brother's arms. We get all of that. So we quickly get the dynamics of that entire neighborhood, and we get the dynamics of the family, which for the most part I think is done pretty well. Now, I think a lot of that is done well. I like I think the stuff with Anne Hathaway, the book that she's writing, is done well. I think the dynamic between her and her husband is done really well. Him having to pick up a side job and deliver pizzas, her being embarrassed about it. I think that's done pretty goddamn well. The other stuff that happens though in the neighborhood with the kids, specifically their son who has a problem with some other boy that randomly shows up during the middle of the dinosaur escapade that takes place. I didn't really care about that. Didn't think it was done greatly, but it wasn't some major blemish on the film. But I was fond of the dynamic between Denise and Greg. I really enjoyed that stuff. But outside of that, nothing in the family drama here worked for me. I honestly really wasn't a fan of the two kid performances, aka Brian Platt and Audrey Platt. They did their jobs, but honestly, at times in this movie, they annoyed the shit out of me. But in terms of family drama, it's not the worst family drama you will ever see in a survival movie, but also it's not the best. I do think it's a really interesting relationship dynamic between Denise and Greg, though, which I think is one of the stronger parts about this movie that doesn't consist of survival and dinosaurs. And then quickly after we get the introduction to the community and quickly after we get the introduction of the family and their dynamic, we experience the mysterious cosmic event that transports them back to the prehistoric era. And from there on, it is fucking exhilarating. Even the little snippets before they fully transport, like plants showing up in one of their neighbors' backyards and mountains of shit showing up in one of their neighbors' backyards, that stuff is interesting to the point where it piques your interest. You're like, what the hell is going on? I do like the mysterious aspect of this movie, like the plant showing up in the lady's backyard, the mountain of shit showing up in their next door neighbor's backyard. That stuff is interesting, and I think the lead up to this gigantic cosmic event that transports them back to the prehistoric era is done pretty well. Even though I wasn't a major fan of other dynamics outside of Anne Hathaway and Ian McGregor, I thought the build up to the neighborhood getting transported back to the prehistoric era was done really, really, really well. And it really piques your interest. It does feel like a lost Twilight Zone episode, which I am a huge fan of that show. So I was a major fan of how this movie felt in that aspect. And then once we get to the prehistoric era, and specifically the next morning in the prehistoric era, it is awesome. It is fucking awesome. I'm not trying to spoil a whole bunch here, but honestly, it's going to be spoiler filled for the rest of this video. It's not going to be that long of a video, but just letting you know, I'm not going to try to censor myself here. Man, the dinosaur stuff in this movie is so good. The CGI for these dinosaurs look great. The CGI for the snakes look great. The wide arrangement of creatures we get in this movie, we get T-Rexes in this movie, we get pterodactyls, we get all of the fucking dinosaurs in this movie, and they all look great. We even get a huge anaconda steak in this movie, which was fascinating and scary to watch on screen. I thought that was great. There's a specific scene in this movie where a bunch of chaos is unfolded. They go back to the house to make their last attempt to finally get back home, back to their time period. And as they're getting ready, a huge anaconda snake slides through their window, and no one hears it because obviously snakes are quiet. But honestly, I don't think this big ass snake could be this quiet. But anyway, no one hears it until it's a little bit too late. Nothing crazy happens. But that scene right there is amazing. I love the stuff with the snakes in this movie. From the scene of it crawling out of a above ground pool to the scene of it crawling through the window to sneak up on this family. I thought the snake stuff in this movie was fucking great. I thought the dinosaur stuff in this movie was fucking great. And this movie is PG-13, but some of the sequences they have with dinosaurs in this movie, when it pertains to dinosaurs attacking people, is awesome. If I get a movie where a neighborhood gets transported back to prehistoric time, I want to see stuff like the stuff that happens in this movie. Meaning, I want to see cars getting chased by dinosaurs. I want to see people running and jumping over fences to get away from dinosaurs. I want to see people getting eaten alive by dinosaurs as they run out of their house and they're too shocked to understand what's going on. And this movie has all that. This movie takes a wildly insane premise and makes it work. And listen, at times this movie is void of logic and it feels a bit stupid. But man, oh man, is it fun. And man, oh man, is it the best dinosaur stuff we have gotten in some time. Everything from when we get to the prehistoric era to when we're about to leave the prehistoric era is really great. I like the dynamic we get between the son and his father, which is Ian McGregor, and the daughter and her mother, which is Anne Hathaway. Clearly the son is more attached to his father, and clearly the daughter is more attached to her mother. We get that in a couple different ways between the diopter shots, but I like that stuff as well. I like the adventures the kids go on randomly because they're worried about their dog, and the sister's trying to find her brother because he went to go look for their dog. Obviously, stuff like that makes me smack my lips a little because it's like, why are you going to chase your dog when you know there's fucking dinosaurs out there? But also in the same breath, it's a young kid who loves his dog. He's probably going to take that risk. But as a 24-year-old man who loves his dog, I don't think I'm going to go look for him when there's motherfucking T-Rexes and pterodactyls and shit outside. Hey, Starbuck, I'll see you on the flip side, kid. Like, I'm sorry. That's just not going to work. But it was awesome. I like when the family splits up. When we get Anne Hathaway and Ian McGregor splitting up outside and going on their own little adventure, and then we get the two kids splitting up. I think it's pretty well done. It's a really fun survival movie. It just is. There's a particular scene in this movie where the family has now moved from the original house and they have been reunited. The kids are in the house safely and the parents meet them there and they're reunited and it's a big reunion. And then they try to head back home, try to go back to their time period. And out of nowhere, a T-Rex shows up and now they're in full sprint mode. They're in full sprint mode, trying to get away from a T-Rex. Ultimately, they do the rope-a-dope. Hey, I'm over here. It leads to Anne Hathaway getting cornered on a deck. And here comes her husband, Ian McGregor, with a sledgehammer. Hits it in its leg. The T-Rex turns around and he knocks it out with a fucking sledgehammer. This is the craziest scene in the movie, by the way. Ian McGregor knocks out a T-Rex with a sledgehammer. Or so he thinks, because as he knocks out the T-Rex with a sledgehammer, he goes to check on his wife. As he's checking on his wife, the T-Rex picks up Ian McGregor, slams on the ground, which leads to his leg getting completely torn off, and then ultimately leads to him just getting massacred by this dinosaur. It was insane. First off, knocking out a T-Rex with a sledgehammer is already insane enough. Then go to the extreme of Ian McGregor getting ripped apart by a T-Rex is pretty awesome and insane. And then obviously the reaction by the family, specifically his wife, is great, Anne Hathaway. And then we go right into the anaconda scene. This movie is very entertaining consistently, which I fucking love. I love how entertaining this movie is, and I love how consistent the entertainment is. That's just a rarity in summer blockbusters, especially in dinosaur movies. All the recent Jurassic World movies, all the recent Jurassic Park movies have just been stale and things we've already seen time in, time out. This isn't. We haven't seen 1970s, 1980s suburban community get transported to the prehistoric era and try to fight for their survival and trying to find a way back home. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen time travel in a fucking dinosaur movie, really. Not in like this much. We haven't seen time travel in a fucking dinosaur movie like this one. So I really enjoy that aspect. I did think the third act was rushed, even though I did like the overall ending. I just wasn't a fan of Anne Hathaway with her kids and trying to return back home and jump into this little time travel bubble to get back to the 1970s or 80s. I forget what year this movie takes place. But yeah, I thought this movie was really entertaining. This is a really hard movie to talk about, kind of, because it's not extremely layered. It's not anything incredibly thoughtful. It's just a really fun survival movie that has dinosaurs in it. So the dinosaurs look great. The two lead performances by Ian McGregor and Anne Hathaway, it's not the best I've ever seen those two, but pretty good performances. The action is great, and I think it's the best dinosaur movie we've gotten in a while. Now, third act is rushed. I do think the two performances by the kids aren't great, but they're doing a good job being annoying kids. I do think visually that this movie gets weird at times. There's a couple of shots of Ian McGregor in front of a green screen that kind of pissed me off while watching. At times this movie feels gray. I do feel like some of the diopter shots in this movie are a bit useless. It's just an interesting visual creative choice that I don't think was needed, but shout out to being your own visionary. I like that. Now, I talked about some of the flaws in this movie. Let's talk about the ending of this movie, because the ending of this movie is pretty interesting. So Anne Hathaway and her kids jump through this bubble, which transports them back to their time period. But once they get back to the time period, it's the night that their neighborhood goes missing. And they're at distance, so they're not in trouble, but this is when their neighborhood goes missing. So they have a decision to make. They're 15, 30 minutes away from their neighborhood going missing, and she makes a decision. She calls some of her neighbors to get them out of Dodge, and she calls her formerly deceased husband, who has been making these pizza deliveries, and she phones a pizza delivery to this house that they are currently in front of, and Ewan McGregor shows up, and instead of killing his character off, which was one of the most shocking moments of the year in film, in my opinion, they bring him back, and now the family is all together. This movie is insane. Not only does it have Ian McGregor knocking out a dinosaur with a sledgehammer and getting ripped apart by it after, it also has two dinosaurs fucking on top of a house. Pretty wild. This movie is nuts. Overall, because I don't want to drag out this review, I said what I liked about this movie. I said what I didn't like about this movie. The fun outweighs the bad. The fun outweighs the stupid and illogical when it pertains to this movie. It's a very solid and fun and consistently entertaining popcorn blockbuster. I think it's a top 12 to 15 movie of the year for me personally. And I think it's the most fun I had watching a movie all summer. It's not the best movie I've watched all summer, but it's definitely the most fun and insane popcorn blockbuster I've seen all year. The End of Oak Street, David Robert Mitchell, Ewan McGregor, Anne Hathaway. What an interesting film. Feels very much like a lost Twilight Zone episode, and that I can appreciate. A time travel movie that has fucking dinosaurs. Fucking interesting. It's funny. It's entertaining. It's your prototypical and your ideal popcorn blockbuster because it has dinosaurs and fucking Anne Hathaway in it. So, overall, I give this movie a 3.5 out of 5, 75 out of 100, 7.5 out of 10. A fun movie, even though it is noticeably flawed. So, The End of Oak Street. Didn't go on too much about this movie, but honestly, not a whole lot to say. Can't really get into the nitty and gritties of this movie because it doesn't have a whole lot of depth to it. But honestly, this movie didn't need a whole lot of depth because it is a popcorn blockbuster. So, The End of Oak Street, a really fun movie. But I am not done yet because I saw 2 other movies this weekend. Actually, I saw 3. I saw The Wrong Girls, starring Kristen Stewart. Stoner comedy, in case you were wondering. Stoner comedies don't really work in the year 2026. just not a great stoner comedy. Not really a great comedy movie, but honestly not the worst thing I've ever seen. A 5 out of 10 in case you're wondering. So two of my favorite films of all time, particularly in the horror genre, got re-released in theaters, and I want to talk about it briefly. The first of those two re-releases I saw in theaters was The Descent, which was the UK unrated version, which has the better ending when you compare it to the US theatrical version. The Descent, what a film, what a horror film. Easily one of the great horror films of the 21st century, which is shocking considering the director that directed The Descent also directed Hellboy 2019. But The Descent is so great and so fucking scary, and it's a must watch in theaters if you have a chance to go see it in theaters. When I saw this on the schedule for Regal, I was like, hey, there's no way I can miss this in theaters, and I'm so glad I listened to my intuition. The Descent is everything you want from it. I mean, it just is. It's scary in its exploration moments. When they're deep cave crawling, deep cave diving, it's just as scary as the monster stuff. But obviously, the monster stuff is scary. Man, the tight spaces of this movie, the climbing over steep drops in this movie, it is claustrophobic, it is dangerous, it is everything you want. Listen, there are imperfections here. The performances aren't extraordinary, but I don't care. I don't care. And honestly, I just want to talk about this. The UK unrated version of this movie and the ending it has makes it an easy 5 out of 5 for me. Before going to see this in theaters for my third rewatch, I was at a 4.5 out of 5. With the UK unrated version ending, it is easily a 5 out of 5. Man, The Descent overall is just one of the most interesting displays of horror filmmaking I've ever seen. And honestly, if you've seen a lot of movies, you should feel the same way I do. It's unbelievable how this film is shot. It's unbelievable how this film is made. And the monster designs for the monsters in this movie are so great. I'm as fascinated by the premise of this film as I am with the making of this film. And honestly, I also am blown away and amazed every time with how this film displays women, specifically women in horror. It's one of my favorite displays of women in a horror movie ever. It's insane. I love all the women in this movie. They're all such badasses. They're all unique and distinct, and I think the two lead characters in this movie are amazing. It's really one of the most insane low-budget horror movies I've ever seen in my life. I want to say this as well. Listen, I know Juno is a piece of shit for fucking her best friend's husband. I also know she's a piece of shit for bringing her friends into an unknown route that leads to their deaths. Outside of that, she's completely innocent, which I know is crazy. But justice for Juno. She is a badass. She is beautiful. She's exactly who she thinks she is. She could have played Tomb Raider. This woman who plays Juno. She is so good in this movie. But Juno is just treated poorly, in my opinion. Listen, she probably deserves it. I know that, but Sarah blaming her for the death of Beth is just insane. Now, she doesn't know the full context of the situation, but for Sarah to do to Juno what she does is insane. And I honestly like how Juno takes it on the chin, and she pulls it out of her leg and fucking turns around and tries to fight these monsters. That is awesome. In my opinion, Sarah and Juno are legitimately great characters and some of the best final girls I've ever seen in a modern horror movie. They are so memorable, they are so badass, and I love them. Amazing creature designs and some of the best jump scares to ever happen in a horror movie, especially in the 21st century. It's amazing. This movie is every bit of terrifying, claustrophobic, primal, and bleak. It's truly underrated, and honestly, it's one of my favorite horror films ever. I wish we got more monster movies like this and more survival movies like this. This is a rarity, it's an anomaly, and Neil Marshall, he directed Hellboy 2019, but man, he directed an arguable horror masterpiece with The Descent. It's one of the best 4K restorations I've ever seen in theaters too. It's so beautiful to watch, and it's not that dark. I love it. Love it. But it wasn't my favorite re-release that came out this weekend because one of my favorite films of all time, especially with how much I love the specific subgenre it subsides in, I saw Train to Busan in theaters this weekend. Now, this has always been one of my favorite movies of all time. It's always been one of my favorite horror movies of all time, but I recently watched it on January 3rd of this year, and I don't know if I was in a bad mood, but I had some weird things to say about it on Letterboxd, and I even lowered my score from a 4.5 to a 4 on that watch around. And then I watch it in theaters. I'm like, what the fuck was I saying in that recent review? This is easily a 5 out of 5. Train to Busan is one of the most perfect zombie movies ever, if not a perfect zombie movie. You just don't get movies like this in the subgenre of zombies. If you are a zombie lover, there has been some really great zombie movies, but also you know how bad and horrific some zombie movies are. And this movie isn't the latter. This is the perfection of that genre. This is the masterpiece of that genre. It's one of the few masterpieces to ever come out of the subgenre of zombies. This film legit has powerhouse performance after powerhouse performance in it. It also has 4 or 5 of the best performances you will ever see in a horror movie, let alone a zombie movie. It also has 4 of the best characters you will ever see in a fucking zombie movie. It's insane. The screenplay is awesome. The filmmaking is top notch, but the performances are what make it a perfect zombie film, in my opinion. The zombies in this movie always blow me away, and to find out that they actually used like breakdancing choreographers as some of the zombies in this movie makes so much more sense because of how those zombies contort themselves in this movie. This film not only succeeds mightily in the zombie stuff and in the survival stuff, it also legitimately succeeds and overachieves as a character drama and as a family drama. It's unbelievable what this film completes and what it succeeds and what it executes in all different kinds of facets. It's awesome, man. Easily one of my favorite films of all time, and just flatly a brilliant film. A zombie film with smart characters, with real feeling characters. It also has a touching plot. It also has tremendous action and horror. That's a rarity. That's an anomaly. And you can really argue that this is the best zombie film of the 21st century and possibly ever. That's how great Train to Busan is. So not only did I get to see The End of Oak Street, which was a really fun summer blockbuster in theaters this weekend, I got to see The Descent, which is incredibly underrated, but I got to see one of my favorite films of all time, one of the greatest zombie films of all time, if not the greatest, Train to Busan in theaters. So I had a great weekend at the theaters, and if you made this far in the video, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you leave a like, I hope you leave a comment, and please subscribe if you were here. Follow me everywhere. I'm at Talks Films on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter for more short form content like this. And next week is going to be a fun one because I'm going to be reviewing 2 movies, 2 new releases, and honestly 2 of the most highly anticipated films for the rest of the year, in my opinion. Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Mishiazma. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And we also get Tony, which I've seen already, but I want to see it again before I talk about it with you guys next week. And also the new Insidious movie comes out, so maybe I talk about that movie briefly. But yeah, if you like this video, stick around for next weekend when I talk about and review Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Mishiazma and Tony. It's your boy Matt Talks Films, and I'll catch you on the flip side.